Welcome to Facets Television. I'm Kevin McDonald, and with me this evening is Todd Spitzer. Todd is currently a candidate for the Orange County Supervisors, but Todd is also the former campaign chairman for Marsy's Law, which is a vital law that was passed a couple of years ago with regards to the rights of victims from crime. Todd, thank you so much.
Hey, Kevin, it's great to be here. Thanks.
I really appreciate your doing this.
No, this is awesome. This is great.
So, first of all, let's talk a little bit about your campaign. You have quite the history in politics, and I'm glad to see that someone with your conservative background from the physical perspective is coming in. What do people need to know about Todd Spitzer and why you should be our next supervisor?
I've been an elected official in this county for almost 20 years. I started in the school board in Brea. I was on the Board of Supervisors in 1996 for 6 years. Then I went to the legislature for 6 years. I've been in private practice as an attorney doing victims' rights work. I went back to the district attorney's office as an assistant district attorney, and now I'm running for the Board of Supervisors. I don't think this is a time in Orange County's history, or even in state history, where we're in financial ruin. People don't have any idea how we're going to recover from this. We have just a mess financially, and we need obviously strong leadership to revive our economy here in Orange County and the state. We have to reemerge as a leader. I mean, we are the West Coast. We have all this opportunity, but what has happened is there's people who are running the state today that think because we live in a beautiful state with beautiful weather that people will stay here, as opposed to remain here because they need to, because they're earning a living. So I want to make not just my campaign, I mean my holding office, all about the economy, creating jobs, creating stimulation so that businesses want to come here. People want to own homes. People aren't going to lose their homes. So it's really, for me, all about economic drivers. The other thing is I've been doing this for such a long time that I have so much experience now that probably when I was younger, I was a county supervisor elected at 35. I didn't really probably know as much, obviously, as I do now. I think I have a different leadership style. I'm a lot calmer, I think a lot more mature. I know how to solve problems in a way that I didn't know probably when I was younger.
Hopefully we all are, yeah.
Well, hopefully, yeah. And so I think I can bring obviously that experience and try to be more of a statesman in terms of problem solving, bringing people together, as opposed to being engaged in a lot of dissension where people are fighting all the time. I am absolutely fed up in government and politics where everybody is fighting all the time about something. I mean,
well, Orange County tends to be pretty cliquish as well, and I one of the reasons why I immediately jumped forward and supported your candidacy, as you know, I did publicly, and the reason I did that was because you're a bit of a rabble-rouser to a degree, but more importantly, you're just not about going along. It's like, let's do what's right, and we'll do the hard work that it takes to do what's right.
But I'll fight the fights. I mean, let's talk about victims' rights.
Yep.
I'm engaged in a battle right now defending crime victims who, entered a club through no fault of their own. They became a victim. And they have a right to participate in the process. Before we did Marsy's Law, crime victims were kind of set to the side. They're treated like the ugly stepchildren of the criminal justice system. And DAs in particular, in fact, the irony now is that DAs around the state did not support Marsy's Law. You would think that prosecutors would have supported our Crime Victims Bill of Rights. They did not endorse it. In fact, they
don't want victims in the way.
They don't want victims meddling in their cases.
Yeah.
And so I am now representing crime victims where repeated mistakes are made by the prosecutor. They're letting people out of custody without informing the victim. They're discussing the cases with the judges in terms of plea bargaining without informing the victims. They're not charging the right criminal charges that are deserved given the conduct, and they're not pursuing restitution on behalf of the victim. So it is a mess. And we would have never known it was a mess unless we started to practice in that area and we started to expose the mistakes in the system. So I think
you have to force people to give the victims the rights that they have.
Right. So when you say okay, Todd Spitzer, rabble-rouser, I look at it like and I appreciate your comment, if I see something that I think is an injustice, whether it was whether El Toro should become an airport, or whether they should put a jail or expand a jail at Music Facility in Irvine, or whether or not we should protect crime victims, or whether or not we should put sex offenders' information on the internet, which is a legislation I carried when I was in Sacramento. When everybody says, that's going to be too difficult to fight, that'll never happen. I mean, luckily, even though I've been doing this for a very long time, I have an abundance of energy, and I am absolutely committed. So it's very hard to knock me off.
And I
the track,
can't doesn't seem to be. You're a cancer survivor too, aren't you?
I am, right.
So I can't isn't in your vocabulary.
Well, it is in some cases. Like I tell my children, I can't stay up that late anymore. Okay, but in general, in terms of public policy, you know, I want to pick issues that I'm deeply committed to, where I think we need to make a difference, and I really like speaking on behalf of people who can't necessarily speak for themselves in a significant way. And empowering people to be able then to be empowered in the system. So like in the criminal justice system, crime victims now are really asserting the rights that we have kind of laid the foundation. But unless we were going in and hammering the courts and forcing the judges to recognize these rights, I mean,
it's just a bunch of line items on a piece of paper.
Line items on a piece of paper, but I'm the guy taking the bullets. I mean, when I go in to represent a victim and the judges aren't used to this, they're the ones yelling at me. Why should somebody, right, somebody who lost their child or their child was, you know, brain damage as a result of a car crash by a DUI driver, drunk driver, why should they be the ones going to court and be re-victimized? So, you know, I see myself as a guy who goes out and takes the bullets. I can take the criticism. I've been doing this a long time. But hopefully to pave the way so it's better for other people. Yeah.
So let me put you on the spot just a little bit from the perspective of you are a fiscal conservative, and one of my frustrations is, frankly, the Republicans in this county in particular run around pro-law enforcement. They're all about supporting public safety, but then when it comes time to fund the sheriff's department, they go, no, we can't afford it. So how are you going to work to balance what the sheriff coined is the fact that budget's been cut to the bone, and it looks like they're cutting more.
Right, it has. I mean, in our county, the sheriff had to go out and entice the federal government to buy $8 million a year of ICE beds, immigration beds.
Which was a brilliant move, by the way.
It was, in terms of supplementing her budget, but why in a county as wealthy as our county and as safe as our county? I mean, safety comes with a price.
Amen.
And I can tell you, look, I was a cop in Los Angeles for 10 years, right? I was a volunteer police officer for LAPD. And today, when you leave Orange County and you go north on the 5, and you hit the LA County border,
you can feel
it's a different place. Okay?
Yeah, you can feel the difference.
It's a different landscape.
Yeah.
I understand that we get the coin like the orange curtain as if, oh, this is some place that people hide behind to have the sanctity of life. This is an amazing place to live. We have a breadth of cultures. We have a breadth of individuals who come here from all over the world. I'm very proud of this county, but I also am very proud of the way we protected this county, and we protected our way of life and the way our landscape appears.
Yeah, well, we fight for the health of our citizenry and the health of our families, and part of that is making sure that the community is clean and safe and free from, as much as possible, you know, the illegal and violent actions on occasion of people who have no business offending against other people.
Okay, so this is what happened. I mean, we have a system now that's completely turned upside down on its head. Yep. We have state prisoners who aren't going to be going to state prison anymore. They're going to be doing time in local county jails. The entire time I was in the assembly, I was the chairman of the committee that oversaw our state prisons. That plan was on the table for years, but because I was there grinding away for 6 years. I got the smallest office in the Capitol. Yep. People have to remember, I got put in the doghouse, the smallest office in the Capitol. Why? Because I was pointing out every day that we were going to pay a price if we changed our prison system and allowed these inmates to stay locally. Parolees are getting out. We see more chases now, more drunk driving. People who should be in state prison are causing death and destruction on our streets. We've had some of the safest communities for like a decade now since we passed the 3 strikes law. Yep. We're going to see an unfortunate reversal of the gains we've made because of these public policy decisions.
I think in the case of 3 strikes, unfortunately, with the lack of space, we are seeing, in my opinion anyway, some overzealous prosecution under 3 strikes, to the degree that we're forcing more severe criminals out the back end. Because there's no room for the newbies to come in, and they're pushing other people out.
But 3 strikes though actually took the worst of the worst off the streets. People.
Oh, I agree when it's applied properly, but I don't believe that it is.
Well, that's interesting. You know, and I know this show isn't about that, but I can tell you that when 3 strikes first came into being, there was a lot of attention. Oh, the guy who stole the pizza.
Yeah, the Long Beach kid. Yeah.
Pizza. Oh, the guy who stole a cookie. Okay, the pizza was actually a Newport Beach case. And it was a street robbery of a pizza, but it was by a thug who rolled some teenagers for their pizza, okay? So they stole a pizza, but it was a street robbery.
Of course.
The bakery, I did that preliminary hearing as a prosecutor, actually, and that was a commercial burglary where the burglar came in through the roof of the bakery, and while he was trying to access the safe and steal monetary loot, he took a cookie. And so the individuals who are against the death penalty and threes, they'll always manipulate the facts.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I don't, we should talk about that, because I'd like to do a whole show on 3 strikes, but especially with the cost of prison today and the fact that as you get to a certain age, we see a precipitous drop in criminal behavior, even in some of the worst criminals. That at there's a point where it just gets ridiculous for us to be paying $50,000 a year or whatever it is, or $42,000 to keep them there.
It's about 50.
Yeah. So let's move back to and I appreciate your position, I really do. So I'm as pro law enforcement as you know, just about as anybody,
right, of course.
And I'm definitely pro victims' rights, and I'm really excited to see someone with your history fighting to get back on the supervisors, because not identifying anybody in particular, but I think we've got a pretty spineless board right now, and I'd like to see some backbone. Of the people you're running against, what's some of the differentiation that people can identify with Todd? Because what's politics all about? Why are you different from the other person?
Right. Well, my first opponent was my former colleague in the State Assembly, Chuck DeVore. I served with him for 4 years. I was elected 2 years before he came, so we overlapped for 4 years. And he had announced he was going to run, and he started his campaign.
Didn't he just run out of the state?
Yeah, he started in January, and he tried to put together a campaign. He was not able to, secure endorsements, raise money. And he has a breadth of following, and he got an opportunity to go to Texas and basically defend Rick Perry's public policies out of the University of Texas at Austin.
Job.
Well, and Rick Perry's got all of his problems, but it was mostly, Chuck DeVore was mostly trying to explain why Rick Perry supported tuition, in-state tuition for illegals.
For illegals, yeah, I remember.
Now my opponent, after Chuck dropped out, Deborah Pauley, she's an elected city council member in the city of Villa Park.
Okay.
Which is one of the smallest, it's actually one of the smallest cities in Orange County, and the smallest city in the third
by
super
revenue
mayoral
and by
district.
size, yeah.
Right. And Deborah's, I think, a good Republican. I've served with her on the Central Committee. We're both elected. But she's incredibly controversial. She says some things, there's things that come out of her mouth that I think her brain has good intentions, but she's not a thinker before she speaks. And she creates so much vile attitude with her words, her diction, that she really offends and alienates a lot of people. She was up for sanctions by her own city council. They were going to sanction her, to admonish her. There were so many protests based upon what she said that at their city council meeting they had to bring in overtime deputy sheriffs just to provide security. And I just think that, we started this show about, why am I running, my maturity, my experience. I mean, I've been the chairman of the Fire Authority Board. I've been the chairman of the Orange County Transportation. I've been on the Sanitation Board. I've been the chairman of the toll road agencies. I was the one who led the buying of the 91 toll lanes when they were in private ownership and returning them back to OCTA so we could make improvements in the 91 corridor, because there were non-compete clauses that said you could make improvements. So
you're kind of like developing a CEO position, because it's interesting, from the supervisors, they are vitally the most important political positions alongside of the sheriff, I think, here in Orange County, clearly. And having that breadth of experience, I can see why that would make a difference, because when you're making decisions, you're impacting a lot of different functions within the county that people may or may not recognize. So I can appreciate what you're saying. As you go forward, well, first of all, are you going to win?
Well, I mean, politics, of course I would love to say I'm going to win.
Right.
But I think anybody that knows me, when I ran for school board back in 1992, I wasn't married yet, no children, and everybody's, why he's running for school board? Well, I had been a high school teacher, and I was very involved in public education. And I was able to defeat an incumbent and get on the school board. I ran for supervisor in a field of 8 in 1996, and no one knew me from Adam, and I was able to get in the runoff against former Assemblyman Mickey Conray, who is now deceased, may rest in peace. And I came from nowhere and was able to beat him. And then since then, I've had a pretty, like in the Assembly, I ran against a token candidate, and so that was a pretty easy race. So this campaign, I mean, I've always been very good on public policy. I've been a very strong in terms of, I think, the issues people care about, which is law enforcement.
Yeah.
My background, I mean, I've been a prosecutor, a cop, and now I'm a victims' rights advocate. So I think the things that people care about, they know they can trust me. I think that's, after all these years, I've had ups and downs like anybody else.
Yeah,
right?
we all do.
Right, we all do.
Absolutely.
And we mature, and I make mistakes, and some things I do really well.
If you don't, you're not trying hard enough.
But that's the thing. I'm willing to walk off the cliff every single day to do things better, even at the risk of making mistakes. And so I think that's why I have this incredible public trust. And people know that, hey, if we elect Todd, he's not going to embarrass us. He's not going to do anything stupid. And we can trust that he has the expertise, both as a lawyer and all his other experiences, to do a good job for us. So I'm very confident in this race, but I will not be overconfident, because when you're overconfident, you're complacent.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think the biggest challenges that the county has? I mean, I understand we have a financial issue. I understand that sales tax are, because of the way our structure relies a lot on sales tax.
For public safety in particular, for sheriff and DA.
Yeah, and
it's
that's
all
been
reliant on Prop
down
172.
Big time.
It's been down, it's kind of popped back up, it's gotten a lot more steady.
Yeah, so what would you say then is our next biggest challenge?
The biggest I want to dwell, if I can, on the economy a little bit.
Please.
One of the things that frustrates me, and this was so frustrating as a legislator, there's this presumption, again, that people will stay here because it's California. That's just not true.
I have several friends who will tell you otherwise.
People go to Florida,
They've
people
left.
are going to Texas, people are going to Arizona,
Colorado.
they're going to Nevada, right, where they don't have sales tax. And so we have to get over the fact that we are going to be able to keep people here and high-paying jobs and everything else because it's California. That's number one.
Yeah, I think they're about to try to raise the income tax, and I think that would be a devastating mistake.
Well, that's exactly my point.
Yeah.
There's this mindset in the individuals who run this state today that if you increase taxes, you'll increase revenue. And I just don't think that plays well. I know that when when the government wants to take more money from me, I want to spend less.
Yeah.
Right? Because I need to keep as much as possible.
Well, and we've seen the number of millionaires in California drop precipitously because
But I'm just talking about average middle. Look, I'm an average middle class. I probably actually make a little bit. I'm probably a little bit upper middle class in terms of my income. I'm not. I'm certainly. I can't make $10,000 bets.
Right.
Yeah. But
there's a nice one.
But I work every single day. I have to bill my clients. I have to find clients who can pay. But I take a lot of clients for pro bono because I believe in their case. And I think I understand, because I was in government for a long time. But now that I've been in the private sector, I can tell you, and you know this, it is tough to make a living.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to really work hard and struggle.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for people who are in government today to understand that there are people out there, all right, who are struggling, and there has to be a sensitivity by government that we can't just live in this largesse, which is how government has been. So the number one issue is the economy. The number one issue, 1A, that's I think contemporaneous with that, is our public pensions, our public employee pensions. Years ago, and I'll be the first one to take ownership of this, we thought we could be generous to our public employees, specifically public safety. But what has happened is that the weight of those pensions has grown like an anchor over government, that to the point where those pensions to fund them will really displace the ability to provide other government services.
Or the future public safety.
And the future public safety. So a guy like me, kind of in conclusion of this, is that because of my background and my credibility with those groups, I really see myself in a very important role on the Board of Supervisors of being able to go to them and say, look, we have got to renegotiate these contracts, okay?
Yeah.
Because if you want a retirement, just like people say, do you want Social Security?
Yep.
If you want Social Security, you better figure out how to fix it.
Yep.
If you want your retirement in the future, you better learn how to fix it or figure out how to fix it. So I'm committed to all that, but I'm very excited because I think we're make some incredible inroads into those issues.
So I'm going to give you 1 minute to tell me, as a voter, why to vote for Todd Spitzer.
I'm deeply committed. I don't. One of the things that I've heard, the word that I've heard used to describe you over and over, and I've kind of adopted it, is passion. I am passionate. Like, I get up every day. Sometimes too early, in fact, but I get up in the morning and I'm like ready to rock and roll. Like, I get excited about what's on my plate. And I think when I say that, like, people believe that. I mean, I just love the workings of public policy. And I love solving problems. So
I do too, and it's a little scary for me that I enjoy it as much as I do. But.
Well, but it's people like us. You do it as an entrepreneur in your arena. I do it as an entrepreneur in my arena. Together, though, the private sector, public sector coming together, it's only through that we're going to be able to move this county forward. And what I care deeply about is Orange County. I care about this county. These issues are more important than Todd Spitzer, Kevin McDonald, or any of us as individuals. It's all our collective effort to make sure that we have the greatest county in California.
So how can people get in touch with you, Todd?
They can find me very easily, toddspitzer.com. They can email me. My phone number's on my website. I'm one of probably the easiest people to find, fortunately and unfortunately. My law practice is spitzerlawoffice.com, and I have my whole website about Marcy's Law, my victims practice. So, Google Todd Spitzer, real easy to find me, but toddspitzer.com.
Well, thank you so much for coming in, Todd, and it's always great to see you.
Good to see you too.
You've been watching Facets Television. I'm Kevin McDonald, and with us is Todd Spitzer, candidate for the Orange County Supervisor.
Hi, I'm Virginia Lorimore, the Chief Excellence Officer of Win Business Germination, and you're watching Facets Television.
Well, we're on Facets Television once again, and welcome back to the Judges' Chambers. My name is Judge Jim Gray. I retired from the Santa Ana Superior Court, and I'm going to talk to you about something a little bit different here, because we all know, and I've seen this as a juvenile court judge, that someone is going to mentor our children. And if it's not their parents, or if it's not the basketball coach or the teachers, it'll be the drug dealers, it'll be the juvenile gang leaders, and say what you will. Charles Manson was really good at mentoring his children, so to speak. So I focused on a different way of doing this, and I actually wrote a musical. It's called Americans All, and it actually focuses upon making good decisions, good choices in the world, staying in school, and we emphasize the importance of that, not only from a monetary standpoint, but just as far as an interest in life. We have a song called The Blame Game, where you actually talk about blaming others. No, take responsibility for yourself. We just had a run at Vanguard University that closed a little while ago, but if you are interested, or you know a high school that would be interested in having a really good musical, either a condensed version for an assembly period or full length with 2 acts, to focus on values, to focus on ethics, non-religious based, come and talk to me. Find me at my website, which is judgejimgray.com. Click on Americans All, see what you think. This is a great, fun way of mentoring our kids and having a whole bunch of fun along the way. Give it a look.